When the holidays start to feel a bit repetitive, reach for a Sprite Winter Spiced Cranberry and put your twist on tradition. A bold cranberry and winter spice flavor fusion, Sprite Winter Spiced Cranberry is a refreshing way to shake things up this sipping season. And only for a limited time. Sprite. Obey your thirst.
This episode is brought to you by McAfee.
Finish your fantasy lineup?
No, but I'm joining this paid group chat with insider info.
Dude, seriously? Forward it to me. Security alert from McAfee. That group's as legit as that knockoff jersey you're wearing.
McAfee's scam detector is available in all McAfee plans for as little as $39.99 for your first year. Learn more at McAfee.com/online protection.
This episode is brought to you by Indeed. You're ready to move your business forward, but first, you need to find the right team. Start your search with Indeed Sponsored Jobs. It can help you reach qualified candidates fast, ensuring your listing is the first one they see. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs are 90% more likely to report a hire than non-sponsored jobs. See the results for yourself. Get a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
Every who down in Who Newville liked the holidays a ton, but where to get great prices on gifts, they had no idea. None. They searched and they searched for great gifts under $25. Gifts for spouses and friends and even their toddlers. When suddenly one who shouted, Walmart has what you want, knowing they have Lego, Tree Hut, and low prices to flaunt. So they enjoy the holiday season as who's often do. Cheering and shouting, Walmart has incredible gifts. Who knew? Find gifts they'll love under $25 at Walmart.
This episode is presented by State Farm. Having insurance isn't the same as having State Farm. It's like needing the protection of an offensive guard on the football field, but getting an elementary school crossing guard. Sure, they're both guards, but you can only trust one to keep your quarterback safe when the game is on the line. So don't settle for just any insurance when there's State Farm. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
Hey there, Duke fans. Tough edition of the Duke Basketball Roundup coming to you right now. This is episode 781. It will be an episode in which we will not be happy. The Blue Devils, of course, lost to Texas Tech. Before we get to that, we will introduce ourselves. I'm Jason Evans. I'm sitting in my home in Atlanta, Georgia. I'm joined by Donald Wine, who is sitting at a hotel in New York. Donald, you were at the game, right, buddy?
I was at the game. I went with three of my friends, and it was great to see so many people in the building. Shout out Steven Van Dude, who is a longtime listener and writer. I got to meet him at halftime, which was pretty cool. A couple other people said hi, didn't give me their names, but just, a lot of love the podcast comments while I was in the Garden.
I love it. We need to, you and I need to get on this. We need to make hats, T-shirts, something like that. So that when people see us, they know it's us.
Right. All two people will buy our merch. So we'll get right on it.
I just meant for you and me.
Oh, yeah. I love T-shirts. Those are easy.
In any event, let's get right to it. We're here to talk about the Duke's first loss of the season. Again, we lose to Texas Tech 82-81. Donald, we're going to do headlines, then we're going to do the good, then we're going to take a break. That should take us about a total of 3 minutes, and then we'll be on to the bad. But I really want us, after we do the headlines, I want us to make sure that we focus on the good, because there was some good in this game, even though the game is super frustrating. But let's start with the headlines like we always do. I'll begin with Ryan Blatch, who sent us this headline within seconds of the game ending. Ryan's headline is this: "They make circus shots, we miss free throws. Next play." I think that was a pretty good summation of the entire game, Ryan. So you get the headline, the first headline of the day.
I have Ted Allen, and Ted Allen's headline was Madison Square Meltdown, Duke wrecked by resilient Red Raiders, which, again, I think sums up the night as well.
That is the alliteration winner of the day. He really did a nice job on that one. I had that one identified as well. Bart Hopper gave us, and by the way, I should note, I'm a huge fan of the TV show Survivor. He gave us Duke gets survivored by Texas Tech, outwitted, outplayed, and outlasted.
Yeah, that's about right. I got Corbin Vandeweghe. Corbin Vandeweghe wrote, Raiders come to collect as costly turnovers and overdue charity stripe bill knocks Devils on their depreciating assets. A Wall Street kind of a rhyme there. Pretty good one. Pretty good one.
That's strong work. That is strong work. Doris Marcus gave us no rebounding, no free throws, no urgency equals no win. Yep, Doris, that would be accurate.
Check, 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 and check. Yeah. I have two more, Jason, before I know you have another one. Nick Soprano wrote Blue Devils to have a blue Christmas at the hands of the Red Raiders. And Jim Baumgartner wrote Duke free throw woes, Stoke Red Raider rally. Jason, we will be talking about free throws.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Well, we'll get to it. We'll get to it. Free throws were not the only problem. I'm going to talk a lot about the other problems as well. Chris Emmershine gave us a limerick, and I think this is pretty good. His cadence, at least, the rhyming patterns work very nicely. I'm going to be honest. Sometimes we get some limericks and poems where I'm like, that's not, it's not. But Chris has it, so I'm going to read it. You ready for this? Watts and Horner sat in the corner planning a Christmas surprise. Duke free throws, please, but Anderson threes spelled trouble and the Devil's demise. That's pretty damn good, Chris. I'm impressed. I'm definitely impressed. I also wanted to note that there are several folks who commented that this was a culmination. I just wanted to, we're not going to get into this right now, Donald, but I wanted to note, because we had so many people write to us and say, this was a culmination of all of Duke's deficiencies that we've been talking about all year. Poor start to the game, poor free throw shooting, lack of a second score. Those folks are all accurate about that. There are a lot of people who said to us, Donald, and when they wrote with headlines, they included comments where they said, Duke did not deserve to win this game. A last-second miracle by Duke would have been an injustice. I don't disagree with that at all. And I think there are certainly lessons that can be learned from a loss that maybe would have been papered over had we managed to hold on and win, or had we managed to hit a shot at the end to win. Last thing before we get to the good, I wanted to note Jim Sumner. We've said this a million times, Donald. Folks, you need to subscribe to Jim Sumner's Substack. He has really, really great commentary, and he closed his newsletter about yesterday's game with these lines that I think are very, very telling. And this is the biggest takeaway that we all should have from this game. He said, Duke has plenty of time to think about this one. If they learn the proper lessons, it's just a blip in the radar. But if not, these problems were going to lead to losses anyway. That is really, really smart by Jim Sumner. Win or loss, this game actually really doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things. But if the problems that reared their head in this game are not fixed, we'll be talking about them over and over and over again over the course of the rest of this season.
So, Jason, the comment that you made actually would be a great way for me to segue into the good, because I want to push back on the notion that we did not deserve to win this game. We did deserve to win this game. We didn't play well enough to win this game. Texas Tech played better down the stretch, and we obviously have some things we got to work on. But this wasn't a case of Texas Tech was just outclassing us and outmastering us the entire game. We had our moments to win this game. If we had won this game, I feel like it would have been a deserving victory. Now, it doesn't mean that we didn't have issues, but I think we had some guys that stepped up at certain times. We're obviously going to talk about some of the good that we did have. But this wasn't if you look at the column, it's not going to be, 97 things in the bad and one thing in the good. Where
no.
It's one of those cases where, again, details matter. We said that in the preview.
No, we had a 20-minute stretch of this game from about the 5-minute mark to about the 5-minute mark of the second half. 5 minutes, there was a good 20. Half this game, Duke was beating Texas Tech by 20+ points. I mean,
it was a 17-point victory or 17-point lead that we had at the 16:32 mark of the second half. That was the biggest lead of the game. And again, we didn't get there undeservedly. We got to that point because we were making overcoming some of the things that we did wrong in the first half and coming back strong. And if you think about it, Jason, being in the arena, there was not a point where we looked at the scoreboard and we went, yep, that tide has turned, right? We know that this is a run that we're on. On TV, it may have felt like that, but during the course of the game, it was a back and forth affair. It felt like, and then we kind of looked up and go, "Wow, we're up 10 after all of that." Like that is a
Yeah.
deserved stretch. So when I saw the people saying like, "Oh, we didn't deserve to win that game," that's a natural reaction to losing in the way that we did. But I don't think we did. I don't think we did not deserve to win this game. We did deserve to win this game. The details, as we mentioned in the preview for this game, as we mentioned in the preview for all the other big games that we played, details matter. And it was in those details that we lost the game. But don't wake up this morning and say that we didn't deserve to win. We did deserve to win. We just need to play better to get to that point where we earn the win.
All right, so as we start with the good, I want to talk about Caden Boozer, who was honestly our best player down the stretch, had that big three late in the game with 1 minute left. A minute left, we were down 4. It looked really dire. And Caden confidently and quickly took that three-pointer. And by the way, all his threes in this game, I thought looked, he usually is like, I'm a little hesitant to take a three-pointer. I feel like Caden's been working on it because he looked very confident taking his threes in this game. That three, by the way, was the only three we hit in the final 15 minutes of the game. Caden also had a couple really nice drives in the lane, finished well. On one of them, it was a really tough shot. He was on the move. He kind of created his own fast break on that play. It was a play where Duke got a rebound and got it up to Caden, and he just sort of said, no, I'm taking this a little bit faster than the defense is going to get back. It put us up 5 points with about 3.5 minutes to go. I felt really good about things at that moment. And by the way, I should note, after the big three-pointer that he hit in the final minute, he immediately turned around and had what I think was his best defensive possession of his career. He absolutely stymied Anderson. He forced a turnover. It gave Duke the ball back with a chance to win it. Now, we'll get into the free throws later on. But the bottom line was, at winning time, Duke had chances to win because of the play of Caden Boozer. And he just seemed more confident than he has lately. He played nearly 20 minutes in this contest and played a lot with CFOS at the same time. I'm wondering that may become more and more of a pattern for this Duke team. And of course, he finishes with 13 points, second most on the team. This really might have been Caden Boozer's best game in a Duke uniform. I think that there's a case for that.
Yeah, I think when it comes to Caden Boozer, he did all that with no turnovers, right? We had 2 assists.
Yeah, 0 turnovers.
And I like the fact that down the stretch, we kind of, John Shire recognized that we needed 2 ball handlers out there. So I think the double pivot, if you will, of Caden Boozer and Caleb Foster, I thought was working. And I think defensively, right, we've talked about defensively that Caden Boozer, it's not that he takes possessions off, but there's definitely some inconsistent application of defense when he's in the game. But this time around, I thought he played strong the entire game. Like, it wasn't like he was there's times where we've seen him kind of get, not necessarily thrown around, but like muscled off of the ball or muscled out of position that he wants to get to. But he was finding his spots. And because of that, he was able to get up good shots. He took, as you mentioned, he was confident in shooting those threes. He was confident getting to his spots in the lane and passing to somebody else. I thought he commanded the ball down the stretch too. Like, he was bringing the ball up and he wanted the ball in his hand. So I liked what I saw from him. And I think, honestly, over the course of this week, we talked about in the Lipscomb game, all the turnovers of the team notwithstanding, he had a really solid game in there. And you've seen him kind of improve on that with this game and the lights under, Madison Square Garden. So I thought he did well.
Yeah. And in fact, I have the whole bench, the entire bench in good for this game. Duke outscores. Duke's bench scoring 34. We outscored them 34-11 off the bench. I mean, if there's a phase of the game that Duke dominated more than anything else, it was the bench scoring. There's no question about that. Part of that was Darren Harris, who had a really nice three-pointer that he hit late in the shot clock. He actually hit another three-pointer in the second half that got waved off for a shot clock violation. God, I've said it again and again. I wish we could find Darren more. I wish we could find a way to get him more shots. He also had a nice drive that put him at the free throw line, and he made both his free throws. That matters. In Darren's 15 minutes of playing time, Duke was a +8. He had the second best plus minus on the team. I thought his defense seemed dialed in. He's getting more minutes. Darren is unquestionably getting more minutes now than he was a couple of weeks ago. and they are more meaningful minutes than they have been in the past. I really feel like Darren is forcing his way more and more into the rotation, and that's obviously a really good thing for Duke.
One guy who I thought was a positive every time he checked into the game was Malik Brown. Malik
He was next on my list. Yes,
yeah, 7 points, 5 rebounds, 5 steals, 1 block, and about 117 deflections. It felt like every time he was in the game, he was usually replacing Pat Gongba. And again, in the stands, we're like, this is no just to Pat. We love Pat. But when Malik came on, it was more of a positive, like, yes, like we need some energy on the defensive end. And we knew that Malik Brown checking in the game meant that we were going to provide it. It didn't mean that Pat didn't do that. But whenever Malik came in, you could see kind of the aura of defense around him kind of, really energize the crowd and get them into it. And he responded in kind, like 5 steals, every one of them timely. That block that he had that was first called the goaltending it was on the other end of the court for me. So we saw it immediately, and you could see him immediately like do the spinny, like, hey, coach, challenge us. And John Shire had the most emphatic challenge call that I've seen a coach do so far in this challenge era in basketball. He like whipped his hand, like went straight to the ref and was like, yo, review that. He didn't even barely look at it. He looked up at the Jumbotron and saw like the very fast replay and immediately started saying, nope, challenge that. It didn't take long for them to overturn that call and give him the rightful block. But again, it was a weak side block where he was all the way over in the 3-point line at the other end, came into the lane to block that shot. That is, again, his energy was all over the place. He was able to really shake up Texas Tech defensively. And again, on the offensive end, he was able to get some putbacks and be in the right place at the right time. So I thought he had a very solid game.
Yeah, I thought Malik was outstanding. One of those steals he had was late in the contest. It was a play where Texas Tech had they either gotten a steal or offensive rebound or defensive rebound. I forget exactly what it was.
It was a defensive rebound off of his shot.
That's right.
He just said, give me the ball back.
Yeah,
and then he went
exactly.
and scored. He got the end one.
But I will tell folks. So you and I have a little group chat with Scott Rich. I can't believe I'm gonna say this. I can't, but I'm gonna say it anyway. So Donald, you weren't as much in the group chat because you were at the game.
I was at the game.
Scott and I were doing our thing back and forth, and at one point after Malik had that one late where he somehow just grabbed the ball like out of nowhere, Scott said Malik is like a D-list X-Man, the X-Men from the comics. He said sort of like Magneto, except Malik controls rubber, not metal.
Yeah,
which I guess is why he's a D-list X-Men, not an A-list. And I said yes, he needs a good X-Men name, and I named Malik Leatherback. You go, Marvel Comics. If you have openings for story writers, I'm here for you.
GBR podcast at gmail.com apparently.
Exactly. It does at times feel like Malik has some kind of otherworldly power that allows him to deflect the ball, to grab the ball, and all that other kind of stuff. He's a special player. I also wanted to very, very quickly mention Dame Sarr, who I thought showed a lot of confidence in his outside shot. Hit 3 out of 6 3-pointers. Hit 3 in a row, then missed 3, but still 50% on threes. We'll take that from him any day of the week. And his length again was a problem on defense. There was a stretch where Duke put him on Anderson, and it really caused problems for Texas Tech running their offense. Now, at the same time, Dame only played 10 minutes in this contest, partly because he committed just a ton of fouls. He didn't foul out, but he ended up with 4 fouls, and I think it limited him a little bit. We'll talk a little bit about the technical that he got as well a little later on. But I did want to note Dame in the good. And then I also wanted to note Nick Khamenei just really quickly, mostly for his play early. When Duke was struggling to get started, it was Nick who hit that 3-pointer and then had a nice drive, had Duke's first 5 points, kind of disappeared a little bit after that. Nick also finished with 0 rebounds on the game. He usually has a better nose for the ball than that. 0 rebounds, surprising. But I did want to note I liked Nick being there for us early on when we needed some help getting off the schneid.
The last thing I had is, in the preview, we mentioned that Texas Tech is a team that doesn't allow you to score points off the pass. I thought, given that, I think our assist rate was 55.6%, which is,
Yeah.
a little lower than what we're normally at, but that's way higher than what Texas Tech normally allows. I think they're in like the 40s when it comes to allowing
Yes.
people to score off the pass. So again, a lot of times it's funny. Sometimes, dare I say, we're unselfish, or a little too unselfish, but we find our open guys. And I thought what was working was that cross-court pass. What was it? It was not working against Lipscomb. But against Texas Tech, they were able to get into the lane, have a couple of guys from Texas Tech collapse on them, and they were able to find who that person was guarding and know that they were open. So we got a lot of open looks early on, and in the second half as well, because of the fact that we were able to successfully dribble drive into the paint. You had two guys kind of come in to kind of collapse and stop the ball handler, and the ball handler was able to pass out to somebody for a three-pointer. Now, we didn't hit those, but those are going to fall. And so I think the positive net of this is the passing against a team that is very hard to pass against. We were able to effectively score the way that we normally do via the assist.
All right, with that, we will be done with the good, and we'll be taking a break. And when we come back on the other side, I will have harsh words for Mr. Jonathan Shire. I think the Duke coach let his team down in this game, and I'll tell you all about it in just a moment. Hey, the holidays are almost here, and if you have names still on your list, don't panic. Uncommon Goods makes holiday shopping stress-free and joyful. With thousands of one-of-a-kind gifts you can't find anywhere else, you'll discover presents that feel meaningful and personal, never rushed or last minute.
Uncommon Goods has something for everyone, from moms and dads to kids and teens, from book lovers and sports fans to foodies, mixologists, and gardeners. You'll find unforgettable gifts that are anything but ordinary. And perhaps most importantly, you're supporting artists and small independent businesses. Every purchase is a chance to choose something remarkable and feel good about where your money goes.
Look, so don't wait. Make this holiday the year you give something truly unforgettable. To get 15% off your next gift, go to uncommongoods.com/DukeBB. That's uncommongoods.com/DukeBB and get 15% off. Don't miss out on this limited time offer. Uncommon Goods. We're all out of the ordinary.
Here's my 30-second story with Guinness. As soon as my sister and I get home for the holidays, we don't even unpack. We head straight to our pub. The bartender already knows our order, Guinness and fries. We laugh all night, catch up with old friends, and walk home with faces sore from smiling. It's one of my favorite nights of the year. That was my 30-second story with Guinness.
Guinness Draft Stout. Please enjoy responsibly. Imported by Diageo Beer Company, USA, New York, New York.
We're only a few weeks in, and the season is already wild. Stars are going off, freshmen are making noise, and the action doesn't stop. DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA, is where you can get in on all of it for pro and college basketball.
Yeah, and don't forget the holiday tournaments and the Emirates NBA Cup. Big moments, big matchups, and a whole lot on the line. Don't miss out. Jump in and bet on the action today.
So download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code DukeBB. That's code DUKEBB. Bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets if your bet wins. In partnership with DraftKings, the crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, 21 and over, age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/audio.
Brooks Running reminds us that we're all powered by something. Whether it's the me-time energy of a run after a day at the office, the electrifying energy of your first marathon, or the infectious energy of a group run with your friends. No matter what energy powers you, Brooks has gear specifically designed to unleash it. So lace up and let it out. Let's run there. Visit brooksrunning.com today to learn more.
Avatar Fire and Ash has arrived.
I am the fire!
Get your 3D tickets now for the greatest chapter of the biggest saga in history.
Whatever happens, protect his family.
Critics rave it's by far the best Avatar movie.
If your father and I do not return, you go as far and as fast as you can.
Movies don't get any bigger than this. Avatar Fire and Ash, rated PG-13, now playing.
Donald, we're back from the break. It's time to get to the bad from the 1-point loss for the Blue Devils against Texas Tech. Do you want to start with rebounding, free throws, coaching, intensity?
I'll stop right there. It's free throws.
You want to start with free throws? Let's start with free throws. Sure, go for it.
We have to start that because, again, this is something that we've said is something that could rear its ugly head. We have some games where down the stretch we hit our free throws, but lately we've had a couple of games where we kind of say, hey, if these down the stretch ones, these front end 1-on-1s, missing those free throws are going to be costly because those are charity stripe points. Those are free points that free opportunities to score points. You should take advantage of them. We got to the free throw line a lot, right? 29 free throws we took, but we were just 58% from the line. Now, if we are 70% from the line, Jason, we win this game by 10 points because it just feels like the front end of 1-on-1s.
If we were 70%, we would have won by 5. That's 5 extra free throws we would have made. So we would have won by 4 points.
No, I'm counting the 3 front ends that we missed because if we make those, we get another opportunity to score points. And even if you make half of them, again, this game is a lot different. If we make the front end of 1-on-1s, those free throws down the stretch. We had some charity stripe trips that went scoreless, right? Where guys went 0 for 2.
Yep.
And so, in a game of details, that was the most glaring detail. That's the one that everyone's going to look at and say, you have to make your free throws. We're not asking you to go 100%. It'd be great. That's too much to ask, though. But if you're going 70%, which was our rate entering this game, we win this game and we win this game pretty handily because the situations change. Instead of us being up 5 points, we're up 7 points. Instead of us being down 2 points, we're level. Like those little things change the analysis of how you attack the game at that point. And so, I think coming down to the fact that it was a 1-point loss and we left a lot of points hanging at the charity stripe, that's obviously the first thing you got to look at. And this is the one thing that can get better because we know we can hit our free throws. It's something that they work on every single day. So that's something that they just have to figure out how to concentrate in those pressure situations and knock down the shot. They've done so much work, great work to get to the line. Reward yourself by making the free throws.
I'm not one of those people. My dad, my dearly departed father, used to just lose his mind when his team missed any free throw. And I would always say to him, I'm like, look, they may be called free throws, but you're not going to hit all of them.
Right.
I'm not one of these people who's like, we got to be 80% or better at the free. I think that's not fair. That's not realistic. But the national average, the average across all of college basketball is just a tick under 72%. I think it's like 71.8, 71.9, something like that. I think 70%. And Duke on the season is right at 70%. I think 70% is a perfectly reasonable level to expect from your team. Your goal should be 75 plus. Your goal should be to get close to 80. But I think 70% is like, that's the least acceptable line that I'll have for the team. And for this Duke team, like you said, to hit 58% of our free throws in a close, tight game, to miss as many front ends of 1-on-1s as we did. Yeah. We left points at the line, and we left points at the line in key moments. I'm not going to say, I will say, you miss a free throw in the first half. It's not the same as missing a free throw in the final 5 minutes. And Duke is missing free throws in the final 5 minutes. Cam Boozer stepped to the line with a chance to give Duke the lead and missed a free throw. It's just, you can't do that and expect to beat a good team unless you're going to do other things like out of this world good, and Duke did not. Donald, do you know who led this game in plus minus on both teams?
I know.
The person who led the game in plus minus with a plus minus of plus 13 in just 13 minutes of playing time was Nolan Groves, the 6'5 freshman wing for Texas Tech. 6'5 freshman wing Nolan Groves plays 13 minutes in this game. His plus minus was plus 13. By the way, he'd only played 13 minutes in his past 7 games combined. He had 0 minutes in several games Texas Tech has played recently. But 6'5 Nolan Groves, a wing, a guard, not a forward, was asked by the Texas Tech's coach to guard Cameron Boozer and Pat Gongba. How the hell does that guy guard those players and limit them the way he did? Patrick Gongba had 1 field goal attempt in this game. I was screaming at the TV for us to recognize the mismatch we had on the inside. And there were stretches, there were little we'd have like a little 3 or 5 minute stretch where we would recognize it and we would dominate them. Because, newsflash, putting a 6'5 freshman guard on Duke's big men is a formula for Duke to get easy buckets again and again and again. The big-to-big passing for Duke is too good. If you put one guy at the high post and the other guy in the low post, it's impossible to defend with small players. It just is. But Duke would do it for a little bit, and then we'd abandon it. And then we'd do it for a little bit, and then we'd abandon it. Why did we ever abandon it? And here we go. I'm going to put this on Jon Scheyer. It is inexcusable for this team not to take advantage of our size advantage in this game. We played stupid, and Jon Scheyer never fixed it. Look, we played stupid in the first half, and the problem was we got hot from the outside. We hit 7 out of 14 threes in the first half, and so we had a 10-point lead. So Jon didn't bother to fix the stupid. I wish we'd been trailing at halftime. I wish we'd hit 5 out of 14 threes in the first half. It had been a really close game. And Jon had said at halftime, hey, guys, here's Pat Gongba. I'm not sure if you've met him or not, but we need to get him the ball in the low post when there's a 6'4 guy guarding him. Hey, here's Cam Boozer. Not sure if you're aware, but maybe we should get him the ball closer to the basket occasionally. But Jon didn't bother to fix it at halftime, and that's on Jon, because when we got cold from the outside in the second half, there was no time for Jon to fix things in timeouts. It is inexcusable for Duke to have not taken advantage of our size. And I'll tell you what else was inexcusable. For Jon Scheyer not to lay into the refs on numerous occasions. Someone has to have our guys' backs, and it wasn't Jon Scheyer. He needs to get a goddamn technical at some point. The flagrant foul on Patrick Gongba was ridiculous. JT Toppin was leaning all over Pat. They fell to the floor together because Pat grabbed him, but it was because Toppin freaking pushed him over first. And for Jon just to be like, I'm a little upset about this, and I really wish they hadn't called that technical on us. Bullshit, Jon. You got to get a technical. You got to throw a clipboard. You got to tell these refs, you will not treat my team this way. And by the way, 30 seconds after the technical on Gongba, they call a technical on Sarr. Jon, protect your players, dude. That is your job as a coach. He let this Duke team down. I'm so mad on the technical on Sarr. He was saying something to the Texas Tech bench. Do you think the Texas Tech bench was talking back to Dame Sarr? Sarr didn't say it out of the blue. He said it because the Texas Tech bench was jawing at him. And for Jon Scheyer not to protect his players, the fact that Jon allowed the refs to take control of this game is on Jon Scheyer. At the end of the game, the referees go ahead and they call a foul on Caleb Foster. Yeah, Caleb was leaning on Anderson, but that was the winning points. We're off of a on the move. It's the kind of foul that doesn't get called all the time, for sure. And then then Anderson misses a free throw. The refs go to the clock to check things out. It's 1.9. Looked to me like it should have been 2.1. The refs go, no, let's make it 1.6. Every single time there was a chance for the refs to make a decision, they made a decision for Texas Tech. They never made it for Duke. Even Malik Brown's goaltending, they took away a Duke fast break so they could go review that thing. Jon Scheyer needs to say to one of those refs, F you. This is not the way you're going to treat my team. I know Sheyer's calm. I know that's his demeanor. But sometimes lose it, dude. And this was a game where you needed to lose it. I wanted Jon Scheyer in the damn locker room watching this game at the end of the game because he'd been kicked out. That's how bad the refs were to Duke. All right, I'm done.
So Lots to unpack there, Jason. Let's start first with the referees because again, this wasn't a game that was decided by referee calls. There's a lot of details that are involved in this. We didn't play well. Texas Tech played better on the day, but during this game, those particular plays that you mentioned, Malik Brown's block that was called the goal 10, that again wiped out a fast break, and it shouldn't have. The reversed foul call on Toppin. How many times have you seen a call on the floor and they go, no, actually, it was reversed. This is a soccer thing, right? Where someone scores at the other end, they go, actually, it's a penalty for the other team, and we're going to take the point off the board. You rarely see that, and the fact is,
at a minimum, that should have been a double foul. At a minimum.
Well,
The
my
bottom
point
line
was
is Toppin's fouling him before Pat grabs him.
well,
There's
the
no
point
question about it.
Forget all that. The point is that in 99.9% of those situations, they say we can't reverse the call that was made on the floor. We can upgrade it, but we can't reverse it. It's a common foul. They called the foul on Obi Toppin, and that changed the game because that would have been what, number 3 on him in the first half. And instead, he goes back to 2, and he ended up with 4 fouls. But again, he would have been out for the entirety of that first half, almost like what 10 minutes, the last 10 minutes of the first half. That would have been a huge deal for Duke. The technical foul again.
By the way, it was 7.5. It came at like the 7:40, 7:50 mark, something like that.
Yeah, again, most of the rest of the first half, right? He would have been
For
done.
sure,
And
yeah.
then 30 seconds later, you call a technical foul on Dame for drawing to the bench. And I will say in the arena, like nobody on the Duke bench, it's not, I'm not putting that on John Sharp. Not one person on the bench looked at that call and was like, that was questionable. They all had the same, like, yeah, he jawed, that's the rule. Like, you break it. Okay. Now I realize there's nuance and there's context to it. You don't just talk smack to somebody without somebody talking back. But just as we say in anything else, right? It's always the retaliation that gets punished. That's what happened in that situation. Now, the last thing is, I have never, and don't even email me on this. I have never, at least for me, never seen someone go to the clock, see that there's time that should be added back on, and take it off. The reason why that shot didn't get off at the end is because we had 0.3 seconds that we didn't. So he had to rush it. Cam had to rush that shot at the end. Again, not a detail that cost us the game, but details matter. As I've said throughout all of this stuff, details matter, and those details are all things that add up at the end of the game that costs us points from the first half to the end of the game. That's how that works, and that's why officiating is so important in this game, why officiating can take momentum away from a team. Now, to your point about the coaching, I think there were definitely times where Texas Tech recognized that they're not going to, they're going to throw a shift at us and we're not going to react to it the way that we should. I think that shift was like Texas Tech basically recognizing, I only got one big guy, and the big guy's in foul trouble. So I can't put him on Cam. I can't put him on Pat. There was times where, they went at Cam Boozer every single play for the first 10 minutes of this ball game. And if you notice, they almost threw their hands up to say because they wanted to get Cam into foul trouble and get him out of the game. Cam did a great job, I thought, at recognizing the fact that they were going at him on every single play and figuring out how to play defense without fouling. I don't think he got his first foul until late in the second half. But at a certain point, Texas Tech said, well, that's not working. So, let's just go ahead and do this other thing we have. That is where the in-game adjustments need to happen. And John Shire has done that brilliantly many, many times in his career. This game, he was slower to adapt to the in-game adjustments than Texas Tech was. From the three-point shooting, and again, in the arena, it didn't feel like we went so cold in the second half that we had not made a shot for basically the 18-minute mark of the second half until Caden's shot with under a minute left. It didn't feel like that. But that's where you have a bench of people with all these guys that have these numbers in front of you. So you go, hey, look, coach, it's been 6 minutes. We haven't made a three. Let's figure out a way to get the ball inside because they can't guard both Pat and Malik and Cam at the same time. They just can't. They only have one guy, and that JT Toppin, number 15, coach, he's over there on the bench because he has 3 fouls. those are the things that you need to recognize in that moment. But it's also a testament to Josh Shire saying, he trusts his guys to get out of that situation, but there's got to be an adult point where he goes, okay, they're not getting themselves out of the situation. I, as the coach, have to make this adjustment. And that's where we ultimately fell a little bit short.
Patrick Gongba took one shot in this game.
Right. I didn't realize that, which is hard to fathom until like the end of the game where you're like, wait, he only took one? Because he had the ball in his hands, it felt like so many times, but the play was kind of filtered away from him in the paint.
Well, we kept on getting him the ball on the perimeter. And, Pat's a really good passer. And again, I love big to big passing, and you got to have a big man sort of further out to do that. I get all those things. But I just don't understand Duke's inability to get Pat the ball in the post, or Cam for that matter, or get Cam the ball and kind of clear things out a little bit so he has an easier lane to the basket. Texas Tech wasn't throwing some special boogeyman kind of defense at us that we couldn't figure out. We just kept on. And by the way, part of this was Cam's too damn unselfish. Cam had 7 assists in this game. I love it. Great number. By the way, I didn't mention Cam had a 10-5-5, like with ease.
Right, yeah.
Not even close. He, 23 points, 10 rebounds, 8 rebounds, and 7 assists. I said 10 because I saw that Cam drew 10 fouls. They fouled Cam 10 times. He goes to the free throw line 14 times. We're not going to get into him missing 5 of them. But I mean, yeah, from a statistical standpoint, Cam was dominant. And yet, I think he passed out of double teams and situations where they came to him almost more than he should have, because there was just, with who they had guarding him, with the defense they were playing, Cam should have gone for 35 probably with ease. It wouldn't even been impressive if he had. And it was really troubling, the fact that Duke let Texas Tech dictate the way the game would be played, where the game would be played. You can't do that and expect to win the contest. And then, I'm going to move on to something else. I think intensity, desire, focus, things that aren't necessarily easy to measure in the stats sheet are phases of the game where Duke was very, very deficient in this game. And I think one place in the stat sheet where you can measure them is rebounding. We've talked about the unbelievable size advantage that Duke had. And look, JT Toppin is a hell of a rebounder, one of the best rebounders in the country, one of the best offensive rebounders in the country. We limited him in a very, very big way. He had a total of 2 offensive rebounds in this game. And Texas Tech only had 7 offensive rebounds in the whole contest, although we're going to get to one of the reasons they didn't need many offensive rebounds. But for Duke to be out-rebounded 30-29 is just inexplicable given Texas Tech's size. I mean, Texas Tech had guys, 6'4" guys, 6'5" guys out there, like just going hard and getting rebounds, and Duke just didn't. Patrick Gongba plays 20 minutes against 6'4", 6'5" guys and only gets 4 rebounds. How's that even possible? Honestly, Cameron Boozer only getting 8 rebounds. I don't understand how Duke, maybe it's, continued rust and the such. There was some talk I heard that maybe the team was a little bit, some of the guys were under the weather, but I just thought Duke did a terrible job in all aspects of being bigger in this game. We didn't get rebounds. We didn't take advantage of it to get easy shots on the inside. We didn't block a lot of shots. It was dispiriting. That's the only word for it.
The way that this presents itself is it's not just about size on rebounds, right? One of the best rebounders ever is Charles Barkley. Charles Barkley is 6'4" with shoes on, right? He's not the biggest guy. He's not the widest guy, but he was in the right position every single time. He had the strength to muscle into position if he wasn't in the right position. And that's what we needed. The hustle points and the intensity and the urgency does not present itself necessarily to the team that has the biggest size. it presents itself to the guys who get to the block in the right position. It is not just on defense with rebounding, right? There was definitely some times where Lawan Watts would come down and he would get to his spot where he could just lay it in off the glass in that same motion, right? He basically had it felt like 8 shots that he made. That was the exact same shot because he got to his spot. He's not the tallest guy on the floor, not the biggest guy on the floor, but he was able to get to his spot. And once he got to his spot, he knew he was winning that battle 9 times out of 10. And he did. That's what it's about. The hustle and the intensity is not always about just, all right, let's just go up and get these rebounds because we're taller. Like, I can get a rebound over a 7-foot guy if I have the right position. Or at the very least, I could get a foul call because they have to go over the back to or give up their position and have to foul in order to get the rebound. We just weren't getting to our spots. And there were times where we did. Like I said, this was a game where we had some moments where, we're getting to our spots, and look how easy and efficient we are when we get to our spots, both on offense and defense. But when we weren't getting to our spots, and when we weren't making a big deal about getting to our spots and forcing the issue, that's when Texas Tech went on their runs, because they were more than happy to get their ground. You don't want to fight for this ground? Cool, we'll take it. That's what it was. And you can't let a team, out muscle you and out hustle you to your spots. They may have their spots on the floor, and your job is to make them suffer at those positions. But if I want to go to the block and lay it in all the time, then that block is mine. You have to have that mentality of, nobody is taking my spot on this floor where I can get the ball and do the most damage to the other team. And there were times where we just didn't feel like they were getting to those positions on the floor where we know they are the most efficient.
I'm glad you brought up Lawan Watts, because we talked in the preview about how well he has been playing lately. We talked about how he, tries to get the free throw line, how he's using his physicality to get inside and get to the places he wants. You just brought it up. It was glaringly apparent in this game. He immediately went at Duke in the early going, and we seemed unprepared. We seemed ill-equipped to stop it. There were times where Darren Harris got isolated on him. The times where Isaiah Evans. There were times where we had somewhat smaller guys who aren't as physical defenders, playing ISO on him. We got to figure out something to do in those situations. You can't just let the guy back them down again and again and again and get easy buckets again and again and again. Duke came into this game, we talked about this, as the best 2-point field goal percentage defense team in the country. Opponents were hitting about 40% of their 2-point field goals against Duke coming into this game. You could make a good argument that the single thing that Duke has done better than anything else all season long, the reason we were undefeated coming into this game, was that we made it difficult for teams to hit 2-point buckets. Texas Tech hit 69.4% of their twos against us. I'm going to repeat the number, Donald, so people hear it.
Not nice.
As I said, 40% coming into this game, Texas Tech hit almost 70% against Duke. Lawan Watts was 10 of 13 on his twos. JT Toppin was 8 of 12 on his twos. I know, Donald, we got the emails. I know that everyone talks about the free throws that we missed, the fact that we didn't get rebounds, the fact that we didn't push the ball inside and pound Texas Tech on the interior. But I think our failure to stop them from getting easy shots close to the basket, I think that's the reason we lost more than anything else. If Texas Tech had only hit 55% of their twos, which would be outrageous against this Duke team, I mean, that would be a great day. We'd be talking about how well they had done shooting 2-point field goals if they'd hit 55% of their twos against this Duke team. If they'd only hit 55% of their twos, Duke would have won this game by double digits, Donald.
Yeah. Again, all this adds up to details. All these little, and when you look at it right in the course of the game, you think, oh, these little things don't add up, right? When you have a game like this that could easily be won, how many segments of the game have we just discussed where we go, oh, if we had just done this, just a smidgen more, we win by double digits. All these little details added up to which is still a strong team, right? Texas Tech is a strong team, but we lost by 1 point in a game where if one or two of these details flip on its head, we're winning this game walking away. And it's a party at the Garden as opposed to a melancholy trip home. And so I think when you look at all these things, like as we approach this break, and I think Jim Sumner is right, we got 11 days to work on all of these little things and come back to be ready for the ACC season where, Jason, it's not going to be a cakewalk. Teams are not going to roll over for us. I recognize we went 19-1 in the ACC last year and then won the ACC tournament. This year is not going to be, these teams are a little bit more difficult. These teams also recognize that everyone thinks we're going to just waltz through the conference. They're not going to let us do that. They're going to be physical. They're going to have the intensity. They're going to go at guys. This was a reminder that every day that we step on the court, the other team wants to beat us. And this is their Super Bowl in a way. Almost every team that we play, this is the biggest game on their schedule. We have to treat every game the same way to match that intensity, because if we don't, this is what happens.
A couple other things as we wrap things up here. First of all, I can't figure out how Isaiah Evans could have played 30 minutes and only gotten off 4 total shots. We've talked, Donald, till we're blue in the face. Duke needs a second scorer. Duke needs a second scorer. Is it Isaiah? Is it going to be Pat? Isaiah and Pat each had 4 points in this game.
Mm-hmm.
Our 2 candidates to be second scorer were the 2 least scoring guys on the entire team. Every single guy on the bench had more points today than either Pat or Isaiah did. I heard, by the way, through the grapevine, Isaiah may be sick, but he played big minutes. Like, he didn't look super sick, other than the fact that he just didn't shoot very much at all. I also want to mention Duke came out really sloppy. Of course, another slow start. We were down 9-0. Cameron Boozer made a terrible pass on the first possession that got picked off very easily. I was like, apparently we still have the Lipscomb turnovers. We kind of cleaned that up. We ended up with 11 turnovers. Not a great number, but not a bad number. Not over my 12 danger zone. Came very close to it, but not quite. But yeah, for Duke to be down 9-0, we were down 13-5 shortly after that. We just got to figure out a way to not dig ourselves a hole out of the gate. I also wanted to mention, hats off to Texas Tech, of course. They pulled off a hell of a comeback to win this game. Donald, with 7 minutes to go, Duke was a 97.5% favorite to win this game. At one point, we were almost 98% to win this contest. This was the 18th most unlikely comeback of the season in college basketball. There have been close to 5,000 games played in college basketball so far this year. This was the 18th most unlikely comeback. So, again, hey, congrats to Texas Tech for pulling off something like that. And last thing I wanted to say, I know I went on a long rant. I know I spat all over my microphone as I was ranting about John Shire. John Shire is a hell of a coach. He's a great coach. We've talked about the lessons that Duke needs to learn from this. The man who will impart those lessons is John Shire. And I have every confidence in him. I may have been screaming at him a minute ago. But I'm here to tell you that this dude, I have every confidence that he's going to figure it out. These guys are going to find their intensity. They're going to find their second score. They're going to find a way to hit free throws. They're going to find all the things that make them the team that look like a club that could cut down the nets, because I think that's how this season will end. I still believe that very firmly.
I mean,
I also think that John Shire's an incredible recruiter and puts a team together really great. And I think in 10 days or so, we're going to find out he's incredible recruiter when Darren Rippey declares for Duke.
I mean, look, Jason, like at the beginning of the season, we said that in the first month of basketball, we might take some hits. John Shire said when he was on this show that in the first month or so, we might take some hits. And we made it to December 20th. That's a long stretch of good basketball. It wasn't perfect basketball, but it was solid basketball. We were beating some really good teams. That was a tough team that we lost to last night in Texas Tech. They'll be right in the thick of things in the Big 12. That Big 12 is going to be a monster. And I think for us, we take this game and we figure out those things that we need to work on and really, really take the next 11 days. I know there's going to be a Christmas break where they kind of get a couple days to go home. Maybe that's what they need, right? The recharge, the refresh after a long few months of basketball to take a couple days off, be with their families and then come back re-energized for the ACC portion of the schedule, plus that Michigan game that's in DC in a couple months. They're going to need that recharge. And I think with that refresh can come a renewed vigor, a renewed intensity, a renewed focus, because that's what, again, as we approach the ACC season, every team is going to come after us. And we need to be ready to withstand that pressure every single night. So if we need to take a couple days to hone in on those details, let's do that, because in the end, we're cutting down the nets in Indianapolis in early April because we paid attention to those details. We paid attention to those moments and we overcame all those obstacles. There's only one team that's able to do that. And we have to learn now how to be that team in April.
Yeah, Donald, if you told me at the start of the season that through Duke's first 12 non-conference games we'd be 11-1, I'd say, take it. I'll book it.
Yeah.
Yep. No problem. Considering the quality of this schedule, where we were playing these games and stuff like that, I would have been like, yeah, 11-1 in a heartbeat. The problem is we went 11-0 and then we lost the last game where it was a game where we were 98% to win it, with 7 minutes left. So it stings. It stings a little bit. But yeah, the reality is that this is a team that frankly has looked better, I think, than most of us thought they would look, and has found some really, really interesting combinations. And I feel great about what's coming next as we embark on the ACC season. With that, we're going to wrap it up here on the latest edition of the Duke Basketball Roundup.
We have two more things.
Oh, you're right. I forgot. Player of the week. Thank you for reminding me.
Play of the game. Yeah.
Okay. So go ahead. Give me your play of the game.
My play of the game is Blake Brown's block that was initially called the goaltend, because, again, he came from the weak side. And from our angle, it was a great play because he basically left his man in the far corner, flew across the paint to block that shot. And the only crime of it is, as you said, is that they prevented a Duke fast break that they easily would have gotten at least to the line off of because they called it a goaltend initially. But I also want to credit John Shire for the moment that he just kind of looked up and saw that it was a block and did the most vigorous coach's challenge call that I've seen so far in this college basketball season. He was amped about that, and the whole crowd knew. I don't know why it took 30 seconds because it should have taken 3. Even on the replay, Texas Tech fans were like, ooh, that's a good block. So that's my play of the game.
My play of the game was Caden Boozer's 3-pointer with 1 minute left. I was actually hoping that I'd have a different play of the game, which would be a play in the final maybe 5 seconds or so, but unfortunately was not to be. But no, I thought Caden, as I said earlier, I thought Caden played with great confidence, and he took that shot with tremendous confidence. It was a big, big, big moment. And I love that Caden hit that. All right, who's your player of the week? Because, man, it's a tough call. There are a lot of guys that you could go for.
Yeah, I thought about Caden Boozer and how he played this week. And, I think I'm going to go with him because I think, again, he showed a lot of poise this week. He made a lot of strides. And it was very close between the twins. It was either him or Cam in my mind. But I think Caden wins out because of the fact that he played relatively clean basketball, especially against Texas Tech. And I thought, as you mentioned, his confidence has gotten a lot bigger, a lot better in the last couple of games. You've seen him go to his spots and find a shot. And we're going to need that down the stretch. I thought he played strong basketball against Texas Tech and solid basketball against Lipscomb.
So I considered Caden. I also strongly considered Malik Brown, who had 7 steals, 14 rebounds, and 18 points on the week, which is pretty good from your backup big man. But I picked someone I think pretty unlikely. I went with Darren Harris. And the reason is this. Darren Harris played his way into a significant role in the Duke rotation this week. He played 22 minutes against Lipscomb. He played 15 minutes against Texas Tech. They were very, very meaningful minutes. They were minutes when the game was still in doubt in both cases. I thought Darren had an outstanding week. He scored 16 total points. This is not a guy who is a high usage player. He knows his role is primarily just to shoot the open three. But I thought the quality of play we saw from Darren was honestly slipping more and more out of the rotation. Remember against Arkansas just a couple of weeks ago, he only played 2 minutes. He only played 4 minutes against Michigan State. For him to get 15 minutes against Texas Tech, again, a comparable quality team, it shows you how much Darren improved his play over that exam break. 22 minutes against Lipscomb, 15 minutes against Texas Tech, and really, looking like he belongs more than he has at any point in his career. I gave Darren Harris my player of the week.
I agree with it. I mean, again, those guys off the bench, I thought the bench had a really good week. The fact that they were able to really dominate against Texas Tech, we're going to need the bench throughout the rest of the season.
Yeah. Even though Cameron Boozer had, 49 points on the week.
Like I said, it was very close. It was one of the twins for me.
And we just sort of expect it from Cam. Yeah. I guess because of that, that's why we look for other people. In any event, all right, that's going to wrap it up here on the latest edition of the DBR podcast, Duke Basketball Roundup. As I was saying, email us, dbrpodcast@gmail.com. We got Christmas break coming, but Donald and I are going to find some content. Haven't figured out what it's going to be. But we'll have something for you because we never let you down. We're always here for you the same way you are always here for us. Until we speak again, here's the Duke Band playing us out and taking us home.